sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Foul Territory. I'm your host, Mike Smith. Well, it's 2014. The spring season is almost upon us, and things are heating up in the NYCMBL. Over the last few days, there's been a flurry of activity on Facebook and other social media outlets with players, managers, and even some onlookers just discussing the NYCMBL forecast for this year. From the proposed Metro League WBC to hot stove topics, including but not limited to Sergio Bruno's decision, which will be brought to you on the podcast later this week. It seems like everybody wants to talk about baseball, and that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So to kick off another year of men's baseball chatter, I'm joined by Sami Akleh from the reigning champion New York Storm. We're going to be discussing the hot stove, especially the Sergio Bruno issue. We're going to be talking a little bit about the WBC. And I think you can tell that both of us are really excited to get this season underway. Sami, how's it going, my man?
No problem, Mike. Let's do it.
Well, first I want to start with something that's on everyone's mind, all over the social media, is the Sergio Bruno decision. Sami, I know you've been in the league a long time. Have you ever seen anything quite like this? Such a decision getting drawn out over a long period of time.
I honestly, I've never. Everybody's just flocked to it. Everybody's just like, and it's all like, I give Sergio Bruno a lot of credit. He's the main driver of this thing. He's the one that promoted it, put it out there, and kept it going for this long. So you know what? Congrats to Bruno. He's the talk of the NYCMBL in the offseason.
Now, I mean, as a fellow catcher, obviously you saw Sergio last year. You see what he's capable of. Does it give you a little pride, as a member of the catching fraternity, to see so much of a big deal not being made over a pitcher, but over a guy who's calling the game, a guy behind the plate?
It does, because I think I spoke about this on some of the threads on Facebook on the NYCMBL thing. A lot of things go unseen. We always, when we look at a guy, whenever we're looking to recruit somebody, we always look at the numbers. Whether he hit, how many stolen bases did he have, how many runs did he drive in, or if it's a pitch, how many strikeouts, how many innings, how many wins. But it goes hand in hand when it comes to the catcher. He's the battery mate. He is the guy that helps drive a pitcher to where he needs to be, helps him keep him where he's at. And a lot of things go unseen that we don't usually focus on. So this kind of conversation about a player like a player playing this position, it puts a little bit of a spotlight on some of the things that we don't usually talk about. So, it's good conversation.
Now, in terms of the teams that Sergio said that he was deciding between, you've got a single A team in Too Hot, and then you've got a host of these double A squads. You've got the D-backs, the Titans, the Baisley Pirates, the Rainmakers. Knowing it teams like the D-backs, the Rainmakers, and especially the Pirates, do you feel that there is a fit for him in one of these spots? Where do you think might be a landing spot for the NYCMBL's most prized free agent here?
Well, I think when you have a catcher like Bruno, he's very solid defensively. He can handle the bat well. He's got a pretty good arm down to second base. You can never, in this league, you can never have too much of anything, to tell you the truth. I mean, especially catcher. We really don't. There's very few catchers in this league that can play the position at a high level. A guy who can block, a guy who can do all the things that you need to do behind the plate. I think he'd be a fit anywhere. I mean, I don't see him going back to the Rainmakers. I mean, that's the team he left. But any team picking him up, I think would be getting a solid player. And depth is always a big thing in this league because not every week we have a full squad. So I think anywhere he goes, they'll be getting a quality player.
And finally, just the last thing I want to ask you about this, seeing all the interest over a guy like Sergio Bruno, might we be looking at the Sami Akleh decision of 2015 on the horizon?
That's never happening, man. No way. I got the Storm jersey on through and through. That'll never happen.
All right, I figured that's what you'd say, but I had to ask anyway. So now we'll turn our attention over towards the single A. Now, I asked for, asked around the league, see what was going on with some of the free agent movements. Not everyone has gotten back to me, but there's, one team in particular in single A, a returning team that looks to be making a lot of moves, and that's Too Hot. Too Hot was a team who a couple of years ago, kind of in shambles, didn't finish out the seasons. They made a real strong push last year With the Elm Jack Dodgers moving up to Double A this year, do you think that the Storm kind of feel like this is their time to grab a Single A crown?
We're referring to Tuha, correct?
Yes. What did I just say?
You said Storm, so
Oh, sorry.
I completely understand. You got us on the brain. It's all good. They went 16-9 last year. I mean, they were pretty good. They had a lot of talent on that team. I don't know what experience levels those guys are at. But the Elm Jack Dodgers, they have guys that play in the NYCMBL Double A division. A lot of experienced guys on team like Shep and Slaughter, Morgan. So they may make that jump. Baseball's a funny game, but they have a ton of talent. They've got like 3 guys hitting 500 on that team last year. Another guy batting 478. I saw one of their guys in the All-Star game last year in the Home Run Derby.
That would be Cruz, right?
Yeah, Cruz. Yeah, that was him. They've got a ton of talent. They can definitely, vault up there and take that crown. But we never know what the season holds. A new team can emerge. Some other team can make improvements that can battle for that crown. So, they're in prime position. They just have to take advantage of the opportunity.
Well, in talking about those new teams, we have one of those in the Brooklyn Angels joining the league this year in Single A. Now, I wanted to ask you about this in terms of a team building, exercise. This is the team that, in talking to their manager, Mike Jacobs, seems to be kind of built from that pitching staff. They've got 2 brothers, Zach and Tyler Durr, who, by all accounts, throw very hard, especially in the Single A. That's going to be a big help for them. I noticed that your team, up until recent years, was always kind of built around the hitting until you started to bring those pitchers in who really started to make a real big contributions, guys like Pena and even Lanahan last year. When you're starting a team, what's the mindset? Do you go with pitchers first? Do you try to bring in some hitters, or do you just kind of grab what you can get?
In this league, it's kind of a combination of everything. In the way I look at it, it's a combination of our recruiting tools are very limited. We only have so many avenues that we can explore, and there's so little talent sometimes that you find that is willing to play that's probably playing in multiple leagues, so their time is limited. But I think pitching is definitely it's been said for forever. Pitching is golden. Pitching is key. So when you have guys like, what they're bringing on, they've already got a leg up on the competition. They've got 2 guys, Zach played club ball at Maryland, and Tyler, and he's for God's sakes, he's an offensive lineman, 6'2" at 240 pounds. That's insane. So you have 2 guys that you can build on. That's always, our fortune didn't start changing until we upgraded our pitching staff, until we got consistent, week to week. We knew what we were expecting, what we could expect, what we got. It didn't start clicking for us until we upgraded that staff. And they've already got a little bit of a leg up on the competition with these 2 guys on the mound.
Well, and the other thing I'll add about that team is, in talking to Mike Jacob today, this is going to be one of those teams that you're not going to want to mess with in case things get a little testy during the game. Aside from Tyler, they recently picked up a kid named Kevin McCormick, who is fighting at super heavyweight in the Golden Gloves this year. So
that sounded like a boxer's name, though. It definitely sounded like somebody that you don't want to face in a bar fight.
Well, I think his nickname, his in-ring nickname is Baby Tyson. So it's definitely a team that you want to stay on their good side.
No, we'll definitely if they ever move up and we face those guys, we'll keep that under wraps.
All right. So now I wanted to switch gears and talk about the Double A, and one of the teams that's kind of making some moves here. Is the guys that you faced in the NYCMBL championships, the Bronx D-backs. I got word yesterday that they picked up Will Rios, who's a longtime NYCMBLer, left-handed hitter, left-handed pitcher. Pete Alvarez has also said that they reached over into the Allboro League to grab some more pitchers. You saw them 3 games. How much of a difference is adding to that pitching staff going to make for that ball club?
I was actually thinking about that when you told me about it. That I think was their biggest downfall. I mean, I think after Padilla, they were really depleted in terms of the kind of quality arms that you would need in a championship series. I mean, you're facing a team. you're facing another team that's probably as good or as talented if they were to get there. And their arms just after Padilla, there was a significant drop off in the effectiveness of each arm. So if they've upgraded their pitching staff, that's a huge boom for them. But aren't they losing Padilla? Isn't Padilla no longer playing in the NYCMBL?
You know what? I've heard rumors, but these are things that you can never be sure of until opening day rolls around.
Absolutely. Well, if he's still there, this is it's a huge boom for them. It's a huge upgrade in terms of they'll have more reinforcements. If the opposite is true and Padilla is no longer there, I don't know what that staff is going to look like. I don't know if they can pick up that kind of a slack. So we'll see what we got on opening day, what their roster is going to look like.
And now another team, a perennial playoff team, also got back to me, and that's the New York Giants. And one of the things that they did this year was they took advantage of the disbanding of Dan Trotta's Express squad. They picked up a couple real good players in Carlos Quintana and Adrian Santiago. I feel like this has got to make that team better right off the bat, no?
No, absolutely. I mean, these two guys, especially from a pitching standpoint, I mean, picking up Santiago I think is more important than Quintana. I mean, Quintana's offense is pretty good, but their offense was pretty decent last year. But where they failed, I think, where they didn't meet their goals or the problems that they had was in the pitching staff. You look at their schedule, you look at the amount of runs they've given up per game. I think that was huge. I think most of the guys had over a 5 ERA. They maybe had only one or two guys that they really relied upon. So adding another guy who won 4 games last year and 45 innings, had a 2.8 ERA. I think that's a huge piece for them. And they could be right there in the Manhattan Bronx division.
And this is another thing. It kind of leads into something I wanted to ask you. With the Express folding, when you see a long-time team not coming back, from a courtesy standpoint, how long do you wait before you pillage their roster and try and grab some players for yourself?
Well, I had some experience with that. At the awards dinner, Trotta was there, and me and Pardo had spoken to Trotta, and he told us he was going down to Cuba, and that the Express probably weren't going to be back next year. And that, he would like to see some of his players go to, established teams that were, have been in NYCMBL for a while and they had consistency. And we expressed interest in a couple of their players, but, you kind of want to approach the manager, you kind of want to approach the coach, and express to them your interest in some of his players and see where you go from there. We ended up not getting one of the pitchers we were looking for. We were looking at Jonathan Quinones from their team. He's gonna be joining the Bronx Titans.
Wow,
with George Collazo.
I did not know. You're scooping me on that one. That's very nice.
Yeah, I got to keep my sources to myself, man. Come on, I got to have some thunder for the podcast myself. So he's going to be going there. He's a durable pitcher. He filled a lot of different roles for them last year. He started. He relieved a little bit. So we were looking at a guy like that, but we only expressed our interest after we had spoken to Trotta, and Trotta had given us the blessing to if you wanted to, here's this guy that I think could help, and he can help you out, and you go from there.
All right. Well, now we'll bring things over to our neck of the woods. One of the biggest news. I'm not sure how many people know this, but it looks like there's going to be a merger of sorts. The BQE. Look to be kind of merging with the Indians, a lot of the guys who are on that fall ball championship team. With the loss of Pisani for the BQE, bringing in this new influx of talent is probably going to change the landscape of the Brooklyn Queens Conference a little bit, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I have huge reservations about that. I mean, like whenever you lose a guy like Pisani, you feel like you have to go out and reinforce that team because you're losing a huge piece. But it's also very difficult to take on a whole team. Take on a whole team that played fall ball together and then find space with the existing squad. I mean, it's definitely going to change BQE. Some of us haven't seen most of these guys that played on the Indians. But I don't know how they're going to manage all those guys and find time for all those guys. But you know how our league goes sometimes. One week you have a different roster than you had the week before. So. It's definitely going to make them. It can make them better. It could break them apart in terms of chemistry. We don't know. We're just going to have to find out once the season starts.
And, you know, I played fall ball. I didn't get the chance to see the Indians, but I think the biggest thing for BQE is if, you know, in that kind of influx of talent, if they've got some live arms on that squad, because that's always been the kind of, you know, BQ is a great hitting team, and their pitching is kind of a week-to-week thing. But if they get some more reliable arms, I mean, that could be a very tough team to deal with. Yeah,
absolutely, and that's the biggest thing. I remember when we faced them in the BQE championship round, the conference championship. You know, we didn't actually fear any of their pitchers. We knew that we could handle whatever they put. But it was still, you know, even with that being said, you know, we squeaked out. Our wins were very close. You know, we won 2 games, but you know, we won 2-1 in the second game, and the second game was close. It was only maybe about 3 runs or so, but you know, even with that, you know, lack of pitching on their end, they still were able to compete. So, you know, if they can find some live arms, like you said, it might be a huge upgrade for them, and you know, who knows where it could take them.
Now, I kind of want to talk about you guys as the defending champs. You guys are sitting at the top of the hill. I mean, what's the mindset going into the off season? Did you guys stand pat? Did you guys make a couple pickups? What's going on with the Storm?
Yeah, you know, we looked at a couple players. There wasn't going to be, you know, this is what I envisioned when I first started playing with, when I started collaborating with Anthony was, you know, we wanted to find a nucleus. We want to find a core, a group of guys that we can bring in every year. And I feel like we've got that. We've got a nice little chemistry with our guys. And I felt like last year we had a lot of our main pieces didn't have the kind of seasons that they were accustomed to or that they expected to have. So we expect our guys to be better than they were last year. And I think the main focus this year was just depth in terms of, you know, if we could find another arm or so, another middle infielder, you know, maybe a second catcher to go along with me to help split the workload. But, you know, we just looked at depth, you know, in terms of, because that's the one big issue that we had is week to week, you know, making sure that we had enough pieces in place to win games. So we've got a couple pieces, you know, in the works right now. We've got a guy that pitched for us last year who didn't pitch a full season but might pitch a full season for us this year. Amaris Santana, he's pitching in D2 up in Boston. He was a good pitcher when he was here for the couple games he was here, and we're looking to get a full season out of him. We might bring back. We found another catcher, Mike Pena's cousin.
Keeping it in the family.
Keep it in the family. You know, like I said, your avenues are limited. You got to exploit whatever you can. So, you know, he's looking to play college ball, but, you know, it looks like he'll be available, first baseman, catcher. And just depth, man. It wasn't really a huge turnover this year. It was just depth and relying on the guys that we had last year.
Well, you know, I did want to ask you from a personal standpoint, you know, you caught the majority of the innings last year. Who was your backup catcher last year?
Well, we had we started off with we had Malcolm Mendez, who was our second catcher, but you know, other circumstances kept him from the team for a bit. So, you know, we rotated. We had guys that had some experience behind the plate. Lamar Burrows filled in quite a bit. Brian Howard at times filled in quite a bit. You know, so we rotated it, and then when it got towards the end of the season, you know, I was doing back-to-back. I was taking over the workload. You know, Kevin does the same thing for you guys. So that second catcher, you know, really didn't come into play at the end of the season. But, you know, I would like to have somebody that we can rely on throughout the season and, you know, into the playoffs.
Well, yeah, you're not a young man anymore, Sammy. So
absolutely
you gotta
not,
protect
man.
those
you know,
knees.
I'm young at heart, but my knees are a different story. Oh, Mike. So we got to get to the biggest. I think, which is like the biggest news. You know, your piece. You got a huge piece coming to your team next year, don't you?
Well, I mean, we got a couple things going on, a couple irons in the fire, as it were. You know, obviously we're not a team that goes out and makes big acquisitions every year, but you know, we did get our leadoff hitter from 2 years ago, Bart Marchand, back, who's going to be huge for us. I think. You know, we were really missing a speed element last year, and this kid stole double-digit bases 2 years ago, so that's going to be big. And then you know, also we got a guy who has pretty much ruined our team in the past in Bobby Gorvetzian. You know, he's another longtime veteran. You know, hits a ton, great pitcher, and I think he's definitely gonna help us. And I was, real excited to get him on the Mudhens
That's pretty
roster.
solid there, Mike. That's pretty solid. I got to say, getting Bobby, that's a huge piece, man. That is definitely a huge piece.
Well, I know there was a lot of teams, kind of inquiring about him, but I'm just happy he can't hurt us anymore. He's hit some big home runs off us, and he's shut us down in big playoff games. So
no, he's one that he's like I take a lot of I solicit the opinions of a lot of my guys, and B Hal has nice things to say about everything about everyone in the league, but the top guys in the league. But when it comes to Gorvetchian, man, B Hal has a lot of respect for Gorvetchian, and that tells me a lot. And Bobby's done some damage against us too, man. I've had some brain cramps when he's been at the plate. So I'm definitely not looking forward to having to call games against them.
I think it's going to be a hell of a season.
No, absolutely. I'm ready to go right now. Let's go. The weather's nice. It's like 50 degrees out. We can have a game right now.
I think that obviously there's more time for opening day. We still have the draft. Sometimes people are found there. But I like the fact that things are starting to take shape, and I love the fact that there's a lot of chatter about it on Facebook. I think
it's more so this year than any other year that I can remember, and I think you can give a lot of credit to new management who's come in, and they've shown the enthusiasm that we haven't seen in years past. So a lot of credit goes to those guys that have drummed up so much excitement. And the players themselves, I think they recognize this is a great league, and they want to keep it that way.
And before I let you go, just the final thing I wanted to ask you about, there's been a lot of talk on Facebook this week about a potential World Baseball Classic scenario, in the preseason. What are your thoughts on that? If this thing gets off the ground, how much excitement do you think that's going to bring to the league?
This is the idea proposed by the proposed NYCMBL villain, Antonio Cardona of the Rainmakers. This is his baby. This was his idea. I think it's interesting. I think it would be a great way to get the season going. My only concern is are teams going to be competitive enough against each other if we do USA, Puerto Rico, Dominicans, the DR squad, and a Europe squad. I just don't know if we have enough talent to go around, for the respective teams to do that. But it's a great idea. If we can pull it off, I'm in. And that'll be a great way to get the season started. I think that would be fantastic.
It would definitely drum up a lot of excitement. I think, I think people are clamoring for it. So hopefully this gets off the ground.
Yeah, we got to get it done. Let's get it done, Mike. Let's get it done on the podcast. We'll make sure it gets done.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sammy.
All right, Mike.
Again, that was Sami Akleh from the New York Storm. Sammy, thanks for stopping by. Now, originally the plan was to have the results of Sergio Bruno's decision brought to you here tonight. Unfortunately, Sergio let me know a few days ago that he was going to need a little more time to mull over his options and make his final choice. So we won't be bringing that to you tonight, but hopefully we'll have something up Wednesday or Thursday to let everyone know, because everyone's been waiting on tenterhooks, where Sergio Bruno is going to end up. But until then, I'm happy to be back with you for another season of NYCMBL baseball. Stay healthy, stay happy, and keep it between the lines.